Al.
Matt.
Al Guido, the newly crowned CEO of the San Francisco 49ers. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. So 12 years with the organization, 10 years as president, and you are announced as CEO on Monday morning. What does that mean?
Well, look, I'm thrilled and just humbled and honored that Jed gave me the opportunity to take on this new role. And for me, it's a lot of what I've been doing, but it's fun that we're sitting here on Monday before the Sunday Super Bowl. Matt, this is our second in a decade hosting, and speaks to, frankly, the franchise, to the region, and all the success we've had. So it's a wonderful time.
Yeah, I know that the story is you were really angling for this, far back. When did it really pick up steam to bring the Super Bowl back to the Bay Area?
Probably 5 years ago, and you're right, I was angling. And you know me fairly well. I'm pretty aggressive as it relates to our standing, our region's standing, the team's standing, the stadium's standing, and the broader ecosystem of sports and entertainment destinations. And I always thought that there was no reason why Levi Stadium couldn't be a multi-Super Bowl stadium event. And now you look at what's happened in the market with Chase Center coming online, which wasn't here at Super Bowl 50. You look at what Larry Baer and the Giants organization have done as Oracle and the Mission Rock development. And then now we have partners in the league that weren't partners. Google and YouTube are a media partner. Apple's doing the halftime show. I think that if you're the Super Bowl or if you're a partner and you're looking for a place where technology and media and innovation all come together around a great sporting event, why not choose the Bay Area and Levi Stadium? And so 2 years ago, it kind of really heated up to put on the event and get all the logistics done. But 5 years ago is when we started lobbying for it.
So I remember, 10 years ago, Super Bowl 50 was at Levi Stadium and so many of the events in San Francisco. At that point, there was talk, boy, is it too far? The game down in Santa Clara, a lot of the events in San Francisco. How do you work that into turning it into a positive, that just using the entire Bay Area?
Well, Look, I think it's been a positive all along. So for me is, a lot of the region gets to be activated, and every fan can't go to every single event. There's capacity, not just on Super Bowl Sunday, but there's capacity for these things. And so to know that there's 300 events happening in San Francisco, hundreds happening in San Jose and around the Bay is great. I think it's just a place where you can meet every single fan. I'm talking to the two teams that are participating, and trust me, I'm bummed that we're not one of them. But to be sequestered a little bit in the South Bay, to maybe be away from it from a fan base perspective, gives them a chance to prepare for the game in a great way. But Mayor Manhattan's been great in San Jose. They're putting their own events on in the market. And I think, Matt, what used to define the best Super Bowl market has changed. We're talking about thousands of hotel rooms being necessary now, 1 million plus visitors coming in here over a 7-day period for some of our airports. And so, look, apples and oranges between these markets, but New Orleans is a great market for one reason, but might be tough on hotel rooms, where the Bay Area now has the ability for people to come in here. It's really easy to access this region. There's a great weather and tremendous events no matter where you live or what fan you might be of which team.
That's funny. 10 years ago, I met a guy by the name of, probably 11 or 12 years ago, I met a guy by the name of Daniel Lurie who ran everything here. Whatever became of that guy?
Yeah, he's the mayor of our city now. Look, talk about it. It's crazy. Just when I recruited Zaileen Jan Mohammed, who's the CEO of now the Bay Area Host Committee, and we wanted to reconstitute it because Daniel had done, or Mayor Lurie, had done a great job being chair of Super Bowl 50. It was the most philanthropic Super Bowl ever put on. It did tremendous amount of economic impact. Daniel was on our board before he had to step off for this one. But we talk a lot about the Bay Area, and our sports teams and our fans talk about Bay Area Unite. We cheer for the other sports teams. Well, I actually approached every single one of my counterparts, Larry Baer, Rick Welts, now Brandon Schneider, all the different sports teams, Jonathan Becker down at the Sharks, Jess Smith, who's now with the Valkyries, Allie Wagner is with Bay FC, to actually be a part of our bid committee. And look, that was powerful. It's really important when you show up with all of the Bay Area caucus signed on to support the event. You show up with other, 7, CEOs or presidents of other sports teams, and you go into Roger Goodell and you say, look, not only do we want to put this on, we have every single other sports team in this market willing to host you in their venues. That's powerful. And that's before you get to the fan base. So for me, I just think we have something to build off of here. I didn't want to be one and done. I don't want to be two and done. So for me, the question is, let's get through the next 6 days, put on a great event, And then trust me, I'll probably send Roger an email Monday morning, if not Sunday night, saying, when are you coming back?
The Super Bowl 70.
Yeah, listen, why not the Super Bowl 65? It's been done before.
How much does, whether it's halftime entertainment or just the events around, how the week is structured, how much of that is the 49ers input and how much of it is just the NFL taking over and saying, this is what we're doing?
I look at it as they're the captain of the team. All right, and we're the participating players, and so they choose a lot of the events, they choose the performers themselves, but we provide them the landscape, right? So we'll go and source all the Moscone Center for them to put the Pro Bowl on. We'll obviously source some of the events spaces that they're going to use, and so for us, our operational team is definitely taxed. They are working like what would be 10 home games down there. Our groundskeeper, Matt Griner, is working on the grounds crew, right, where they're using our sod farms at West Coast Turfs down in Palm Springs. And so there's a lot that our actual team is doing. I would say the only difference is instead of it being our event and or our IP, it's theirs, but we're still doing all the work.
Okay, so the 49ers' dream of playing in a Super Bowl hosted by the 49ers came to an end. How do you look back at the season that was for the 49ers, that the exciting run into the playoffs, the victory in the wild card round over Philadelphia, and then losing to one of the teams that'll be there at Levi Stadium on Sunday?
Yeah, it's kind of like picking your favorite kid. I got 3 daughters, but I'll tell you, I'm so proud of our team. I'm so proud of our staff. I'm so proud of our coaches. Well documented the injuries that we had to fight through. Yeah, look, it's a bummer to fall short. I'm biased. I think Kyle Shanahan should win the Coach of the Year. I think it's the greatest coaching job, or if not one of the greatest coaching jobs I've ever seen. And to pull guys off the street months before to be playing in those games, it speaks to the culture in that locker room. Like I said, I'm a teammate of theirs, but they're tremendous leaders and great captains. I'm bummed for our fans that we're not able to play in this game. Hopefully next year it's not that far away from us, and we can play it in there. But our goal remains the same, Matt. It's the same every single day when we walk in that building. We get reminded of what the goal is and what the standard is, and that's to put another Lombardi trophy in that case. We haven't achieved it yet, certainly not in my timeline here. I know we're close, and that doesn't necessarily count, but I really appreciate our fans, I appreciate our players, and I appreciate the coaching staff and the front office who work so darn hard to have it be a special year.
You mentioned John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, and part of your promotion to CEO is part of what the 49ers announced was that you report directly to Jed York, who's the principal owner, as does John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan. So can you speak on that dynamic? And I've been covering this organization for a long time, and frankly, there have been a lot of times when people at the top of the organization, coach and general manager, didn't get along, and you could feel it. What's it like being in the building with Lynch and Shanahan and seeing them now entering their 10th season together?
It's fun. That's what I would say. Is that sports is supposed to be fun. Like, you're going to go through hard times. That's true. But we like each other on and off. Inside and outside the office, we get along. Our families hang out together.
And why is that important?
Because look, this is hard. I mean, this is not an easy thing to do, right? Losing games, winning games, going through the ups and downs together. No different than a family per se. Like, look, we spend all of our waking hours together, and I oftentimes think our players. Our fans, or some fans might see them as what they do on the field, but we know them as their families, we know them as their kids, and we know how important it is to them. And so when you go through these difficult moments together, it can either tear you apart or it can bring you closer. And I think the relationship that you have will define what happens. And knowing that we're close, that we understand the goals, that we each understand our role within that, that we're accountable to one another, that we communicate across the board is just critical. The days of, the NFL has evolved, and the days of, even somebody asked me earlier, like just scouting and picking players, that's not the only job of the general manager anymore. The head coach, you're seeing what Kyle has to go through right now around putting together a staff because people have gotten great opportunities to go on and coach somewhere else. And so how things evolve, we talked about the international footprint and the scheduling and Levi's, it's impossible for us not to communicate. And so to know that we've had continuity for what will now be 10 years between myself, John, Kyle, Prague, Jed, everyone else who's been there, I think it does matter. And in the NFL, you're looking for whatever advantage you can get because the margin of victory is just so small. And if we can gain a little bit about that by having a great culture and great accountability to each other, then we put ourselves in a better position to win.
Every offseason, is interesting for every team. Who stays, who goes, all the moving and shaking that goes on into that. What will be your role as far as determining or help determine where you guys go in the offseason as far as either player acquisition or just salary cap management or whatever else?
It's going to be Jed, John, and Kyle's decision on where we go. I would say I'm a sounding board. I'm happy to be supportive, and there's a lot of things that I know at the league level that I can help those guys with. But the truth of the matter, Matt, is the salary cap is a calculation, as you know. And so, I often tell my daughters, who actually tell me when I get home, is like, what's going to happen? Who are we going to sign? And I always say, like, girls, if I gave you $100 and you had to allocate it to the positions, you'd probably over-allocate it because you want to keep everybody. And that's just the hard part of this. It's also the sad part of a season. It's not just that you didn't win or achieve your ultimate goal, but the reality is it might be the last time a team like that in its entirety is together. And so, look, hard decisions every single offseason. Frankly, hard decisions on refilling coaches because we have such a good roster pool here, Matt, but I'll just be a teammate to them and a sounding board on whatever it is they need.
And how do you feel about where the roster is right now? Some of your top acquisitions for the upcoming season will probably be a guy named Nick Bosa and Fred Warner and Michael Williams. But how do you feel about just where the roster is heading into 2026?
Yeah, it wouldn't have been on my wish list to say like we were going to play this season without those guys. And, it's hard to think about in Tampa when Fred goes down and we lose that game that we would have been having a chance to play in an NFC title game. I feel great about the roster. I think the silver lining of this season is a lot of young guys got a lot of snaps. And, of course, we would have loved to have Michael get those snaps as a rookie coming into it. But to be able to kind of change it over and get these young guys the ability to go out there and play a season, yes, they get a lot of exposure in college, but we all know the NFL game is completely different than the college game. And so guys like Upton Stout and guys like Alfred Collins and guys like CJ West and you name it, all the other rookie class coupled with the second-year team guys or the second-year guys, I hope that benefits us next year, that they were able to achieve the success they have and get the snaps they got.
Now, you mentioned international footprint earlier. Can you explain one thing to me? You guys have international rights to, help me out here, Mexico,
the
London,
UK, and the UAE. Yes.
What does that mean exactly? Does that mean if you host a game, it would only be in one of those locations?
It does not mean that. So
host an international game.
Yeah. So I guess the way I would, for fans that are during the time frame where we're 9-1, so now that we're in a 17-3 schedule. It means 1 year we have 9 home games and the regular season games, and the next year we have 8 regular season games. In your 9-game season, it is likely that you'll play a home international game. The NFL selects which market you go to. Sure, they ask you some questions, and it might matter what marketing rights you have, Matt, but the reality is just because we have marketing rights in the UK and Mexico, the UK, and the UAE, doesn't mean they couldn't put us in another country. They could. Now, we've done a really good job in those markets growing fan bases. We're number one by a lot of metrics in those markets. And so it'd be safe to assume that they would probably lean on putting us in one of those markets, but it's not a guarantee.
I've heard a lot of rumors out there, including Melbourne against the Rams potentially. Also heard, Mexico City. There's 3 London games, I believe, in 2026. Safe to say, Al, that 49ers will be playing at least one international game in 2026?
Yeah, that's safe to say. That's for sure safe to say. Where, I don't know. You have better sources than I do. I actually don't know, but yeah, safe to say. And the NFL does a good job notifying us. We've already notified our season ticket members and our sponsors that it's likely that we play an international home game based off the 9-1 scenario. And I think our fan base is looking forward to it. You cover us. You're on the road every week. It's just amazing to me over the course of the last 5 years to see how many fans of ours show up in other, away stadiums. And I had the privilege of going down to Arizona where we were the road team against the Cardinals. Mexico City where we were the road team against the Cardinals. And so I think our fans are actually excited about it, frankly. It's sort of changed within the league where it might have been viewed as a negative before, but I think our fan base actually looks forward to it.
All right, Al. Hey, I had a little trivia for you as we end this. 877 episodes of 49ers Talk. You were on the very first episode.
I remember.
Yeah, I'll have to get you some plates or something.
Well, just see, I mean, you and I have been here for a long time. You're longer than me at this point, but I appreciate you having me.
All right, Al, thanks so much.
Thank you.